how are you today? Welcome to the Quench Life podcast. And with me today is Heather Mayo. She owns 2 gyms, New York Sport and Fitness in New York. And we're so excited to have her on the show today. We're going to be talking about body image. Welcome, Heather. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I invited Heather on the show. On her social media pages, she talks so much freshly about body image, and I think that that's such a massive thing that everybody struggles with. I know that we kind of single it out women, but we will in this context, being that we're chatting with women here. So why don't you just kind of chat us through like your vision on body image? I know for me personally, I struggle with my body image every single day. You get up out of bed and you look in the mirror, maybe you see more gray hairs than you used to see. You're seeing wrinkles that weren't there, especially coming out of all of the salons being closed with COVID. It's like, oh my God. So why don't you kind of chat us through what all of this means for you?
Yeah, so self-image is obviously, I hate to say the statement, I think most women deal with it, but unfortunately, I believe that to be true. I think, and like you said, everybody, I feel like this is a universal thing. It's just we ladies kind of tend to talk about it a little more, or maybe have a bigger microscope on us. And then as it relates to my career, I feel like that's kind of what people do is people come into our facilities and they think they need to fix, in quotations, they need to fix themselves, and that by fixing our bodies, it kind of fixes all these problems. And so it creates this circular type thinking where it becomes really easy to just really get caught up in what we think is staring back at us in the mirror.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. And it's kind of understanding the full context of how all of life growing up, going through adolescent, all these little things has kind of affected you. I'm sure my mom's gonna kill me for saying this, but I remember growing up that when she didn't like how she looked, she would tape a picture of herself to the fridge, almost like of a daily reminder of when she would open the door, like, oh, don't eat because this is what you're gonna look like or what you're gonna feel like. And that has stuck with me, growing up. I don't even remember how old I was when it happened. So that's an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah, I have the same experience. Kind of on the opposite. My mother is one of those women that she will say things like, oh, if I could only gain 5 pounds, which to me, that's like a foreign, like you're an alien if that's your problem. But on the opposite, I remember, I'm going to age myself here, but you remember Snackwell's cookies? When Snackwells were the thing, like the low fat phase. I remember her bringing in Snackwell's cookies for me. And then my brothers could have like the Oreos or, whatever. And in her mind, she thought, cause I was, and I, again, in quotations, chubby, because what the heck is chubby? It's a silly word, but I was a child who struggled with my weight, and she thought she was helping me when really all she was doing, and God bless her, because she truly thought she was helping, but she was giving me a complex.
Right.
And so it made me, and of course that tied back to how I look, because when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, what else do you have to relate that to? We're not relating how we eat to our health at that age. You're just relating it to, well, this must be bad or something. And so, yeah, it is. It's scary. And I know we're both parents. And so it's just being cognizant of that now, like what are we teaching our children by either what we're doing or what we're, saying?
Yeah. I think I think that's a two-for thing, because it's like not only what we're saying to our children, but like what we say to ourselves every day. That skin grab, oh, if I could just lose this right here, everything would be better if this pouch just went away that is in the front, or whatever it is that we communicate to ourselves. I don't think everybody realizes kind of what those long-term effects are. So can you kind of walk us through like what that looks like and what that really does to us, or what we're doing to ourselves? I guess it's more of
it's just we become so self-critical, and that we tend to not see any of the good qualities that we have. And again, I hate to say it's only women, because I know it's not, but women are so much worse at it. I can't tell you. I mean, and this is from my own personal experience, but then also in owning a gym for the last, 9 years, I've seen it. I've seen women come into my office who are so successful, who have the career, who have the jobs, who have the marriage, who have, you know, whatever we want to deem as success, but they have all these wonderful qualities going for them. And because they want to lose 20 pounds, they think they're a loser. And it's like, how can we, if we were to make a list of all your good qualities, you would have so much there to be proud of. Yet, because you want to lose 20 pounds or 10 pounds or 5 pounds, or raising my own hand here, 2 pounds, which is just crazy, you feel like I am not worthy. And then we allow that to, on an even bigger level, to become our identity. And so we put away all that, you know, I did this, I did this, I did this. We don't even think about that. And all we think is, I am fat, I am lazy, I am unmotivated, which turns into I am unworthy, which turns into, you know, like self-loathing. And so it's just horrible. You know, it's really, really horrible. And then in our industry, you know, my own things like imposter syndrome. It's really easy to look on social media and see all these girls with huge butts and flat bellies. And like, for me to think like, oh, well then I don't have any business to be here because, you know, like, who am I? Because I just, you know, I have to look this way. And so it just creates this huge, you know, comparison trap that it sucks.
Yeah, it definitely goes round and round. And I think the pressure of social media, again, even going back to our children, has become such a huge pressure that was never there, or was never there as much. You know, it's the same thing. You look at people that are super skinny or in the best relationships, or how are these people traveling and doing all of these things, and you start to question like what's happening in your own life. And it's on a greater scale. Before, it used to be crazy claims. Well, there's still crazy claims in magazines. The grocery store. But the social media has definitely driven so much more of that. And it's interesting because I agree the same way. There's so many women that we have coming into our facility every day that do amazing things every single day. But get hung up on the fact like, all right, well, I'm not losing weight this fast, or I'm not doing that this quickly. And it's like, well, everybody's different, or, you know, your stress level is different. You're not sleeping. You're saying you're not sleeping. There's other things that kind of work all into these things. And it's like, if that instant thing doesn't work, it's a frustration. There's something wrong with me. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, totally. It's a circular thing. And what really upsets me, it to see it, and, you know, have lived it, and to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, even though I feel like those thoughts just never go away. You know, we're always, it's hard. It's a constant battle, but just allowing those things to become our identity, and people just truly like start to believe that is like, that they are some flawed human being because they wear a size fill in the blank. And it's just like, no, you're not flawed. It's society that's flawed.
We're all right. It's everybody else.
It's everybody else. Yeah.
I like that mentality. All right. So what are some common pitfalls that you've kind of seen some women fall into? And like, what are some tips that you can throw at us that have helped kind of dig us back out of feeling negative? And sometimes, you know, I think it happens, you know, you have a bad week, a couple bad days, you're not sleeping well, you know, maybe you're eating like crap, and that kind of all catches up to you, and it's just blah, and then it starts raining.
Yeah.
So that's like, how can we help ourselves and kind of dig out, if you will?
I think so there's two sides of it, and they seem kind of conflicting, but I feel like they go together really well. First, we need to give ourselves so much grace. We are so bad. We are good at giving grace to other people. We're good at telling our best friend, like, oh, it's fine. Like, of course you're stress eating. You know, whatever. But when it's ourselves, we're like, oh, you're a piece of garbage. Like, you're a loser for doing that. And so we need to extend ourselves the grace that we would extend to our friends, our sisters, our daughters. We need to do that. But on the other side of it, we need to call our BS. We need to call our bullshit. We need to be able to say, like, look, okay, I can give myself grace, but yeah, I have been treating myself like garbage. And this is the important part, like, you don't always, I think self-love is a weird concept. Nobody's ever going to love themselves all the time, but it's self-respect. Right. You have to understand that you deserve the same respect that everybody else, and you are never going to respect yourself by just eating Doritos on the couch for 2 weeks straight. Like, that's not, and again, so we go back to the grace, like, okay, that happened, but we can't continue to allow it to happen, because that's not love.
Right.
That's not respect. And so it's letting those two things kind of come together, and then don't fall into the really big female trap of marketing. Like, start small. Pick something that you can do and start small. Nobody did this in 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
The waist trainer.
Oh, exactly. Fit tea.
FYI, no waist
Yeah.
trainer.
No. No.
Yeah, and I think we hold on to so much, we hold ourselves guilty, like, oh, I'm like, go, it's like Thanksgiving, we had Thanksgiving. Oh my God, like we need to work out for 4 days, 500 hours because you ate. Like, you're not going to die, first of all. I hope that you sat down and you enjoyed it with your family. Like, why is this such a negative take on? Like, it's funny if you think of like working up to Thanksgiving, how you shop, you're buying liquor, you're like all this effort, and then immediately the next day it's negative. Well, I sat and ate pie, I sat and did this, and that's we're like, does anybody even hear we just
oh
for the last
it's wild. It's really wild, and it goes back to like that, like I mean, that was something I internalized as a child. Like, did I earn this, or do I like deserve this, or whatever? Where it's like, no, it's food. Like, we need to eat it to stay alive. Like, let's take all of our like guilt out of it. Like, that's just not helping in any situation.
Right. I agree. No, and the guilt with food is such, I mean, it's just like guilt. Guilt with our kids, guilt with what we ate, guilt with what we drink. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, right. And it just makes it worse. Like, it doesn't, and that's what I wish I could get into. It took me a while to get it into my head. It took me years to get it into my head. So believe me, this is not like me saying this from a glass house, but like, if that's one thing like I could get, like, it is wild how quickly, once you can get guilt off of your plate, basically, how quickly behaviors will change, because so much of our like, and again, air quotations, because what is eating poorly? That's all individual. That's all like, it's just a made up kind of term. But like, if we stop focusing on like the guilt side of our eating, it tends to clean itself up pretty easy, because we're not having this like negative, like self-talk, self-sabotage, like whatever. And so you just have the pie and you move on.
Right.
Like, you just move on. Like, there is no like, oh, I blew it, so I might as well, which is what we all do,
Right.
So it's just
drink the wine, have the pie, but just move on. I'm the same way.
Just move on.
Like, you're not going to mess everything up in 1 hour of having eating like that. You can't, unless you're a real bender that we didn't talk about. But just get up tomorrow and start where you left off.
And just choose again. Really, you're just gonna make another meal. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an interesting thing, and I would love to know like so much more deeper of like, why or when did this happen, that it's such a guilty thing, because when you talk about it out loud, it almost seems silly to say, like, girl, just get over it. And there are people that are literally, that it's hard for them. So when you talk about guilt, can you give us like kind of some tips and tricks that, like you said, that kind of helped you get out of your head or your space, that not even specific to food, but just kind of that overall rainbow, if you will?
Yeah. Well, so one, being objective, like really trying to take myself out of my body and look at it differently. Like, what would I say to somebody else? Like, what would I say to somebody I truly loved in that situation? Okay, well, if somebody I truly love went on a bender of just eating everything like garbage for the weekend, I would say, oh yeah, that's definitely not good. Like, that's not good, but like, let's get it together. I wouldn't say, nope, you need to go to the gym and run 17 miles and then, do lunges on the way home. Like, I wouldn't say that. I would just be like, yeah, that probably wasn't the smartest thing. Like, hopefully we learned a lesson. Let's move on. And so just getting out of the whole like punishment thing, because I feel like that's the problem, is it's the punishment and then trying to undo it. I think the undoing of it is what causes the doing, if that makes sense. It keeps us in that cycle of like, things are off limits, things are bad, I only drink on the weekends, I only have pizza on Friday, I only so we create all these made up boundaries, and then we set ourselves up for failure because they're not realistic. Right. And then we get guilty, and then we put ourselves in, so like, it's just really taking yourself out of it and being able to see like the lunacy of it. Like, I'm an adult, I have a car, I have a credit card, I can get whatever the hell I want at any time. It doesn't need to be off limit. Like, so it's just like, but reminding yourself of that, and sometimes I really don't want it. That's okay too, but that doesn't mean I'm good. Like, oh, I'm being good tonight. I'm not going to have the pizza and the wine. Like, no, I just don't want it. Like, so trying to like take the emotion out of it on both ends. I'm not trying to be good and I'm not going to feel bad if I'm being bad in quotation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like it's your comment on being an adult, like that you do have to have the ability to eat what you want. Because I always say to everybody, like, if I said to you right now, you can't eat guacamole or whatever it might be, you're literally going to leave here, drive home and be like, frick, I want guacamole. You're at night. I would like, you might not even like it, but you're going to,
that's what you're going to think about.
Yeah.
Totally.
So you have 2 daughters, right?
I have 1 daughter and then 2 sons. Yep.
So, and she's older, right? She just graduated.
She's 18. Yeah.
So what do you have any feedback? My daughter is 13. So we're just kind of starting all of that fun stuff and watching her now kind of change how she's dressing, and just how she's behaving and slowly putting mascara on and kind of going through things. It's really making me more cognizant of what I'm saying around her about myself, because don't want, I'm sure I have already done, but I'm trying to backtrack a little bit with my wording and not saying to her, not necessarily like, oh, that looks cute on you, but trying to find other ways to describe it.
Other ways, yeah.
Is that, how did you do with your daughter with that?
Yeah. So I'll start off by saying so I had Evelyn really young, and I had kind of an epiphany when she was around like 7 or 8 years old, which was right when I was in the height of like my negative headspace as far as weight and body image goes. And I was like a cardio queen, an hour, 2 hours a day, like measuring food, like the standard BS that we do. And my elliptical at the time was in her toy room, and she would like just sit there and play while I would do like my daily like cardio. And I don't know what happened, but one day I would like just happen to look at her and was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What is she seeing? And it was like a huge slap in the face that like, this is what I am allowing her to see. This is what I am allowing. Like, she sees me pull out a scale to measure chicken breast. Like, is this what is happening? And so that thankfully shook me enough to like, it got me over a lot of things, like in kind of like a come to Jesus moment type thing. And so after that day, that's exactly how I try to see it, is like, what would I have wanted to her hear at that age, or what would I have wanted to see at that age? And so for me, like you mentioned before, like your mom hanging the thing on the fridge, I had to really, really watch just even like silly things like grocery shopping. I would before say like, no, we can't buy that. And now it's like, well, why can't we? I'm like, you're right. We can. Like, we can. So being aware of that. And then as she comes into, and we're in a different situation, they see us at the gym. They see us working out, which is something I'm very, very proud of now. But because she sees me working out because it's something I choose to do, and it's something that makes me feel good. And so that's what I always, from that moment on, tried to remind her, and more importantly, remind myself, like, no, this is something I do for my body, not to my body. And this is like a huge, and I hate to bash cardio, but cardio can just be such a really punishing behavior. And weightlifting changed my headspace a lot. And that's thankfully, I think, what more of her cognizant memories are of me, is because that's when I got into like weightlifting. And she started weightlifting right around, I want to say like 12-ish years old. And it was something like fun for her. And so that's how I try to keep it. Like, this is like a really cool behavior and a really cool habit. And this will make you feel really strong, and it'll make you feel really powerful. But if you're just doing it just to do it, that doesn't work. And it's funny because she's on social media, and so she would send me things that she saw on Instagram, like the booty workouts and stuff. I'm like, Ev, what? Let's really talk about this. Do you really think that those kickbacks are going to do that to you? Like, what, like, let's have, so just trying to keep like an open, like, dialogue of kind of like, okay, well, why are you doing that? Or why are you, feeling that way? And then as far as food goes, I've just been really careful from that moment. Like, we don't speak about diets. We don't speak about like good or bad or whatever. Obviously, if you open my fridge, I think most people would say like, oh, that's pretty healthy, quote unquote. But there's also everything else there too, because I realized in not having it, it was just making things almost worse, because then it was like you said, then I always wanted the guacamole. So like trying to make it like there are choices, choose wisely and then choose again type thing.
Yeah. And recently that's funny too, because I've been increasing how much I've been eating, just, being at the gym all day, running around, and I'm like, I'm just not eating enough, and it's causing me an issue. So when I was putting everything together, I remember listening to my sister Madison was like, are you going on a diet? And I'm like, no, like I'm just making sure that I just have more food in the fridge.
Yeah.
But it's not a diet. And then I'm like, oh, like we probably need to break why we're having this conversation down. Like, just because you're packing food doesn't necessarily mean that you're on a diet. I'm just trying to not kick in the door at 7:30 tonight and be hungry. Because nobody wants to see that.
Right.
But that's what they're used to seeing is that kind of going through that process, and you're dieting. You don't necessarily see people positioning eating well and just doing good things as this is just what we're doing for the good of it, but it's because they're looking for outcome, right? Like if I took a picture and posted something with a bunch of food prep things, all you're going to see in the feed is like, oh my God, what diet are you on?
What are you doing?
What's this? What are you doing? Are you fasting? Are you this? Are you that? Like, no, I'm just going to eat.
Yeah. And I think that's important. I love that you said that. Like, we position, and again, I hate to generalize, but it's us ladies, but anytime we exercise, anytime we eat better, anytime we put extra broccoli on our plate, we position it as we're doing this to change. We're doing this to be good. We're doing this to like whatever, where it's like, really it's the exact opposite. If we're truly doing something that's supposed to be helpful for us, like it's a self-love behavior. And nobody ever like, eating a salad that is very sad, like it feels very sad, but like eating a salad because you just want a salad, like that's just what you do. And so like just reminding that they're like, no, this is what we do because we like ourselves. This is what we do because we respect ourselves. That was something I wish was taught to me when I was younger, because it was the opposite. Like, you have to work out because it helps you lose weight. You have to eat better because, it was always tied to it. It was never just, no, you do this because like you are a human and you have the ability to move, and like we're made to move. And so that's just like what we should do to feel good, like, type thing.
Yeah. And I think I'm in the same space with you with the self-love thing right now, because self-love is exploding. And I don't know if it's because like we're home with everything going on with COVID.
Yeah.
But I laughed because somebody posted the other day, something about self-love in regards to the fact that it's like, it's hard to meditate at 6 o'clock in the morning when the kids are screaming and you're trying to like get out the door and all these things. Cause I feel like it's like super high end with what that even means. Like now even to love ourselves, I have to be meditating, drinking, like, geez Louise, like, can't I just like, there's no media.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
Yeah. It's like we have the desire to like always be doing the most, when really like the baseline behavior, like I work with women like on the side, like in some coaching things, and whenever I'm working with somebody, I'm like, find your foundation, like find 4 behaviors that make you feel good and stick with them. And that's really all you need. Like we tend to overcomplicate it. And then we fall on our faces. Well, I can't even meditate for 17 hours straight. Like, what can I do? It's just like
I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. to do that. So
which is fine.
But everybody on Instagram says I should be. So well, Heather, I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us today. I think that the body image is, it's always just scraping the surface, because there's just so much more in depth than we realize. But we appreciate you coming on the show. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
There's so much information about what women should be doing to stay fit and healthy, it makes it hard to know what information is right. Join me, Jillian Russo, every Wednesday as I interview women who have finally made themselves a priority. Each episode contains inspirational stories from women just like you who have had enough and have decided to make health and fitness part of their everyday lives. I'll also be inviting other health and wellness professionals to share their stories and provide tips on health, nutrition, wellness, life, and much more.